Hi, everyone. This is Catching Up with the Nerds with your hosts, Tom and JC, and our special regular guest, David. This is a podcast about two dads that are catching up on all the nerdy stuff we missed, sharing how we pass on our nerdy passions to our kids, and deep diving into nerd pop culture to make it more accessible for you. Welcome back, listeners.
Hey, listeners.
Hi, listeners.
Great. And we're back. We took a week off, and by we, I mean JC did, and we're now back. Where did you go, JC? How was the holiday? Vacation, sorry.
Good, man. Went down to a place in Central Oregon called Bend that's got just a bunch of lakes. So it was, in case anybody missed it, we had a heat wave. So it was 110 degrees Fahrenheit, about like 42, 44 Celsius. It was hot. So we jumped into every lake we could, which normally is too cold for us to jump into, and it felt amazing. So we spent a lot of time on paddle boards and lakes. So it was a great holiday. It was very nice. Thank you.
Oh, God. Yeah, I've seen the photos on Instagram. Slightly jealous. Anyway, Dave, how are you? Welcome back.
Doing well. Busy, very busy, but happy.
Our body hurts because we played basketball yesterday.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Obviously dominated. If you want to hear about that, we can. You can listen to us talk about it on Grit and Grind podcast, which is Dave's project thing podcast.
If you want to call it that.
But yeah. Anyway, enough promotion. On the podcast, let's talk Loki, episode 3 and 4. If you've not listened to us go on about episode 1 and 2, please do so. The episode is available to download on every single platform you can think of, and also on YouTube if you want to watch us talk about that. So we'll go with the usual format episode, and we'll talk about what we loved, what we hated, and where we think this is all going. We'll start with episode 3, and episode 4, which was, hey. Like my way of explaining things. Hey, I'm trying to include everyone, right? Right, let's, we'll assume that everyone's watched both episodes or all of the episodes that were before that. So we'll just go, and this is not a spoiler-free zone right here. This is heavy spoilers. So please, post this, go and watch, and come back to us. We'll welcome you back with open arms. Anyway, let's go. Episode 3. Who would like to start with that?
I'll do my 3-line take.
Yes. Oh, yeah, it's true.
The episode.
Go for it. Yeah.
So I am unprepared, but not that unprepared for this episode.
That's right.
So here we go. Drum roll, please.
Go.
So Loki goes on an adventure with Loki. Loki falls in love with Loki.
Nice.
And Loki gets a red wedding. Done.
Wow. Is that for episode 3 and 4?
That is episode 3 and 4. The whole thing. So I do 3 lines. Yeah. That's all that happened.
That works. I agree with those. Cool.
All right. So what do you guys think? David, what's your thought?
Go with the things you loved.
Enjoy this. Did you not like it? Did you find it foul and disgusting?
Episode by episode, or just mash them together and everything I liked across them both?
Everything you liked across the board.
Yeah, let's go like that.
Yeah. All right. I think okay. Episode 3 made me realize how great Mobius is, how great Ravonna is, and that the main draw of this show is good dialogue and interesting concepts and theories. And when the dialogue isn't good, the show isn't good. But staying to the positives.
Yeah.
I think its strength is it's the TVA, it's the theories around time and what's going on with the characters in that sense. I think that has been the best part of both episodes. I've also I have to mention this just because of how much I have disliked other Marvel shows. The combat is actually decent in that they don't look like they haven't fought before, like the Iron Fist. Hated the combat in the Iron Fist. Any chance I get to pan the combat in the Iron Fist, I will pan the combat in the Iron Fist, because he is meant to be the greatest martial artist in the Marvel Universe. And as far as combat has gone, he has been the worst fighter of any kind in any kind of Marvel show I have ever seen. So yeah, positives.
Positive, yes.
I like where they appear to be going, story wise. I like that they kind of showed us everything we needed to know, and then still managed to surprise us. Everything we needed to know was right in front of our faces, but they were still able to make things interesting and surprising down throughout the 2 episodes.
Good. I want to join in with the things I liked from those 2 episodes. I think was the twist with the timekeepers, them being robots, or were they robots? Yeah, robots.
Fake, essentially.
Fake, basically. Yeah. That Wizard of Oz moment when it's like, oh look, haha, big monster doesn't really exist. For now, we don't know. Mephisto's got a bunch of twists.
He's back there, back behind the curtain.
Yeah, so that's something I really enjoyed. That episode 4 to me was the strongest one out of what we've seen so far for Loki. I'll keep my thoughts for things I didn't like to talk about episode 3. And funny enough, the things I enjoyed the most from episode 4 was the dialogue, which we'll talk about that in episode 3. The things I didn't like. I don't know, man. It seems to be going the way I was hoping it would go, or hoping it would be going. So it's quite interesting that it's not disappointing in that aspect. It's always tricky to deal with time traveling and having to go back and forth and having to explain timelines and stuff like that. So I'm very happy with what they've done so far. In terms of other things I liked Lady Loki. I liked her as an actress. I don't know, there's not one character in there that I'm thinking, oh, the acting's horrible, or there's something that's taking me out in terms of acting, or in terms of anyone feeling out of place. I think the acting is really strong in Loki, where there's a couple of things like that sometimes I was thinking with Falcon and Winter Soldier, there's a couple actors in there that was like, I don't like you guys. But this one, I think the casting was really well done, and they went with really great actors. I think that's about it for the things I loved. I don't know. It's really weird because episode 4 is like I felt like it went like the entire episode was 5 minutes long because I enjoyed it so much, and it was like the whole thing. And I started trying to watch review videos on YouTube, and it's like there's a lot that happened in there, but everything felt like it was getting into place, and it's taking us to an awesome direction for episode 5 and 6. I like the post-end credit scene also, which looked like a album cover for a very gangster rap album. With the 3 Lokis showing up, including one Loki wearing the Mjolnir, the classic comic outfit, but then the dude on the left that's wearing the carrying the hammer. I thought that was like, that is sick. I want to see that. So that's me. JC, what did you love?
So actually, a lot of stuff you guys mentioned. Of course, the dialogue. I love good dialogue writing, so that has been clearly a highlight. But one thing that I've really enjoyed is the fact that this show, at least so far, this is the point where the other shows went off in tangents that didn't quite marry up later. And I feel like the show, I like that it's continuing to follow the same plot line and not diverging into different plot lines. And that's been really like tight writing, which I really enjoy. It's like, it's never taking me out of the show, despite episode 3, it's still like kept through the same plot. I'm like, all right, great. Let's carry on with this. I'm still trying to figure out if I like the fact that this feels like one long movie, or if I don't. I'm not 100% sure about that, but more than the others, just really does feel like one long movie.
Yes.
And yeah, it's cool. Like, I think that's why it feels like so enjoyable to watch and just like to clock in and go like, oh yeah, like something happened this week. So besides that, I will say that like I do have thoughts on fighting as well. And some are positive and some are negative. I will say that Lady Loki kicks ass. And I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
Yes, she
Yeah,
does.
agreed.
Yeah.
So, is that all you got, JC? The things
Oh,
you like?
I have more, but I'm saving it for like the themes and things I want to like.
You want to get to
I'm loading up for that. Don't you worry, son. I'll get there.
Fine, then I think we it feels too early to go into the dislike portion of the.
Man. All right. I'll add some more just to keep Tom happy.
Yes. Balance.
So yeah, I really do think that the highlight acting wise, like you highlighted the level of acting. I think the best actors on the show are Gugu, was it Mbathu Raw, and I can never remember this guy's name.
Which one?
And Mobius, the guy that plays Mobius.
Owen Wilson.
Owen Wilson. Yeah, I think they are the two best actors on the show, and the more scenes they're in, the better the show is. And then I really liked the sort of the realization that the what do you call them? All of the people in the TVA are variants. Yeah. And all of the variants were once human. Right, or from whatever part of the timeline that they were taken from. I think that was a really important reveal. I think that was a really nice way of grounding the show. And then that scene where is it B15 she's called?
B15.
Which further forces home the fact that they're named after numbers and rather than having names. The fact that she pulled Lady Loki aside, or Sylvie, as she likes to be called, and asked her to take control of her again. Like, it's really, first of all, Sylvie mentions, I can't see your name tag from here, but it's just a number anyway. Because that's very dehumanizing. That's something that is done in prisons. Inmates are called inmate. They're not called by their name. And they're assigned a number rather than having a name. And then for her to be pulled aside, they go back to where she was originally mind controlled, and she gets her to see another scene from her life. And it was in that moment that you sort of realize that, like, this whole TVA thing is really, really fucked up. Like, when she mentions it in episode 3, when Sylvie mentions it in episode 3, you're like, oh, okay, they're all humans, like, that's not great, but it doesn't really hit home until I think later on. And that was a really cool scene.
Yeah. Actually, I'm really glad you touched on prisons, because funny enough, that was one of the things I was waiting to talk about. I feel like this show is very much about rehabilitation. That's like one of the big themes for me. And if you look at it, exactly that, like Hunter B15, right? It's like she actively looks to see, like, show me what's out there, right? And to your point, it's like the dehumanizing factor of it all that stuff, all those themes are there. They're very prison related. But if you look at it through the lens of Loki, he's the prisoner because he's also a variant. So in theory, he could have just been assigned a number and told, like, go work for the TVA and you're done. And it's like this whole fascist system, right? But he was given an opportunity to have purpose. He had his name, he was given a mission, he was given purpose, and through a certain degree, like, that almost rehabilitated Loki. And it's just such a great analogy of, like, how broken our prison system is, right? Because we basically stick people in a cell and never give them an opportunity to have purpose or have any sort of autonomy to rehabilitate themselves. And I think it just shows it so well. And then once one person wakes up, like, the other people want to wake up too. They're like, wait, no, I've always known there's something more. Like, why am I not looking for that, right? Even though I know it. And then when he turns around and tells Owen Wilson, he's like, you're the biggest liar of all, the lies you tell yourself. To me, that just landed so hard at that moment, because I'm like, yep, that's exactly it. That's where the show's heading. So yeah, dude, that's a really good take, because I think that rehabilitation is so huge for this.
Yeah, and I think didn't that mirror something that he said in episode 1 about Loki himself after he shows him his path, and he says like what I can't remember what the actual conversation was about, but after he shows him his future and he's trying to get to the bottom of who Loki really is, right? And he basically says that he lies to himself, like that's what he does more than anything. He lies to himself. He's not tricking people, he's tricking himself into thinking that he's something that he's not.
Exactly. And that's the part where that gets flipped around. That's where the writing, you can tell it was really well thought out, because really like everyone else has been lying to themselves, except has Ravonna been lying to herself or not? That's an interesting question, because Ravonna was walking into like the chamber where the three lizards are, and clearly seeming nervous. So she didn't know they were androids, but was still playing along with the whole like knowing that everybody's a variant thing. I'm like, like there, I don't know if she's actually like, I think she's the one that actually knows the truth, and everyone else has been lied to pretty much.
Yeah. It seems like she's at the highest post within the TVA.
Yeah.
Like without being an actual timekeeper. And I think it almost doesn't matter whether she knows whether they're androids or not, because ultimately if she believes they're androids, they're being controlled by someone, right? And that person seems to have power.
Dang.
Yeah. And big shout out to the actress who plays Hunter B-15, Wunmi Musaku. If you guys still haven't caught Lovecraft Country, she's in there, right? Tears it up. She has one of the most harrowing scenes in that entire show, and just pulls it off so well. So and she's given so little in the show, yet is such a big presence. Like I think we're going to see her a lot more in a lot of shows coming up. She's very good.
Yeah, it's a really good performance here as well.
Yeah.
Just going back to the Ravonna thing, that in the I had to look that up the other day, but in the Marvel comics, she's actually in love with Kang. So there's another theory there. She's romantically involved with her. So Mephisto, Kang, I'm going down the same route again. Where
it will be
a big bad guy in there.
Yeah, it'll be Kang.
Kang's been casted already for the movie, for Doctor Strange too. So you know it's up there. Will we get to see him now in the series, episode 6 at the end, turning around, facing the camera, going ha ha ha?
It will, if it's going to be something, I think it's more likely to be something Easter eggy rather than actually like him fighting against the Lokis or something like that. I don't think it's going to be that big. I think we've learned from the last two.
I've given up on that. No,
there's not going to be any huge fights.
We're lowering expectations and taking the show at face value. Shut up, guys. Shut up.
What happened?
That's just not on brand.
we got our heart broken soul. It's just I can't take it anymore. Just to wave, just Kang showing up on screen, going, "Hey, it'll be me soon." You know, it's me. It's a me, Kang. You know, just that is fine. I'm happy with that. You just don't have to fight. Don't have to show your powers. We'll see you in the next movie. That's all good. I'll take that. You know. But anyway, Mephisto is showing up in episode 5. We all agree on that, right?
Guaranteed.
Mephisto
Loki.
Mephisto Loki. Yeah, it makes sense.
You know what episode I'm sure Mephisto wasn't in? Episode 3. I'm going to set up that alley-oop for you, Tom, so you can just dunk that bad boy. Come on,
right, good.
Do it. Get it off your chest. Come on.
Let's move on. Let's move on to the things we didn't love. Because
it'll be a short segment.
It's fine. It's fine. We're 20 minutes in. That works. It's fine. We're keeping that for the timekeeping. Hey lads. Anyway, so God. I don't know if you. How should I frame it? Episode 3 felt like it lasted for about 5 minutes, but not for the right reasons. It felt like I was like, oh wait. It was just them getting on a train, trying to escape this planet, and that was it. Yeah, they were trying to fall in love or something, but I was like, it's not falling. Yeah, not falling in love. It's like they realized that they were like each other. They were very similar to each other. But what put me out was really the entire train scene when they were sitting down, they escaped, they managed to get in on the train, and then they had that one-on-one interview slash chat, and it was just the weirdest scene. Like, I didn't like I don't like the discussion. I didn't like the script. I didn't like anything about this. It took me out of the entire episode. I was like, okay, they're trying to say something to each other. They're trying to understand what their emotions are, but I didn't feel like it was like to me. Nothing was hitting. I was like, this is cringe, slightly cringe. Like the whole thing with the love is a dagger thing. I was like, legit about to say, just move on. Let's move on. This is not happening. I know you're setting up episode 4, 5, 6. That's fine. You know, you have to have that episode in the series where it goes, it's a bit meh because we're setting something up. Fine, I get it. But it's like the whole thing, I was like, no, so cringe. That I don't know if it's the way they wrote the entire discussions with those two guys, and then it was towards the end, there's that bit where Loki is up there standing by the bar singing, and also maybe it's the start of it. I can't remember what it was, but I was like, I don't want to see that. I don't want to see Loki singing. I don't want to see him. I know he's like a guardian and they like to party and shit, but I don't want to see that. No. I don't want this in my bedroom. I don't want that. What's on my TV. I don't want to see this. I don't want that. I felt like it was slightly. To me, it was out of place. It was the whole scene stood out to me, but in the wrong way. It sort of ruined the episode for me. So I really like them visiting the planet and trying to escape and trying to bond that way. That was cool. It's like trying to understand each other and trying to see what they also measuring each other up, right? They're trying to see is she going to betray me or is he trying to betray me? Because obviously they're both supposed to be god of mischief or goddess of mischief. They're the same person at the end of it. Oh, that's how I interpret it. I don't know. That scene was just like it ruined the entire episode for me. So I don't know if it was just me, but the three of us on our sofa watching it went, huh? What is this? So I don't know. I'm actually curious to hear what you guys think. Like, what do you think about that scene in particular, that train ride when it's just like chatted for what seemed about 25 minutes?
Before we chime in, was it Michael Bay bad? That's all I want to know, Tom. That is all I want to know.
No. It was a different kind of bad. It was it was a Michael Bay bad. There was no. So, if you don't know what JC is about, go back to our Tenet episode, part 1.
Yes,
it's all in there. Go on. Am I being stupid? Do I need to rewatch it again, maybe to have another take? I don't know. I ended up episode 3 with the whole planet exploding and everything when it cut to black, and I went, literally for the first time in my life, I went, fuck Marvel. What is this? No. I was actually annoyed. Like, I never get annoyed at anything.
You didn't watch the Elektra movie?
Yeah. Yeah, let's put it this way. From the start, since the start of them getting into series, right? Yeah. I think that's.
Yeah, I thought it was bad before that. I thought it was bad before the train scene. Once they landed on the planet, and I just felt like they didn't pull off the whole. They're not cops, but like the whole buddy cop relationship, the banter between them, for lack of a better term, just didn't work. I just didn't think them trying to bounce off each other and one up each other and outsmart each other and outfight each other, I don't think any of it worked. And for the first time watching one of these TV shows, I questioned the acting a lot. It actually had me questioning whether Loki, Tom Hiddleston, was a good actor as well, because he'd been great when he was opposite Owen Wilson and been great interacting with other Avengers and things like that. But in this moment, I was just like, what is going on here? Like, this is really bad, like really bad. And I couldn't tell if it was the writing or the acting. That's
what my wife said. It's like, the acting is really bad as this one. And I was like, I think I need to rewatch it again because, but yeah, that was her observation as well.
That was my impression. And because this was the first time we'd seen Sylvie for an extended period of time, I was questioning whether she was a good actor or not, or actress or not. Yeah, the whole thing was just bad. I have a few notes.
I think to me the train scene was the icing on the cake. I think this is when they lost me, and I went the dialogue is killing it for me. Like it's more than the acting or anything. It's just the dialogue.
I was already lost. I thought they had already failed as a writing team, as a show. It was interesting because the writing was so bad, but this was also the episode that had the most action by far.
Yes.
Yep.
So they started with action, and then it was like every other scene was an action scene, and which was fine, but that's like not really what the show had been about up to that point, and it wasn't what the show should be about, in my opinion. And it really, really reminded me.
Yeah, go on.
Mac effect.
Yeah.
Of an Uncharted game.
Uncharted game. In what ways? No, wait.
It was like, silly story banter. Oh, there's some villains. Action scene. Fight. Then go back. Story scene. Talk. Oh, there's some villains. Action. And that's not to take away. Like, it seemed formulaic. That's not to take away from Uncharted, it's a good game, a good series. But it just seemed like going back and playing Uncharted 1. Where it was just formulaic. It's like, okay, here's what we're going to do. You need to get from here. This is our beginning point. This is our end point.
Here's a joke.
And we're going to put action here in the A slot. We're going to put story here in the B slot. We're going to put action here in the C slot. Story here in the D slot. Action, story, story at the end. Okay. And then they wrote the episode.
I feel like JC is not happy with our description of episode 3. I think
no, I fully agree with everything you guys said. However, I will step in and defend this episode in one particular angle. But before I defend it, I'll add to the duck, right? Because agree with everything you guys said. The train scene was a bit off. The singing scene, I didn't mind as much as I think most people did. I thought there was something kind of interesting about that scene. At least I'm like, it was less about, was it a good musical scene, and more like Marvel did a musical scene. I'm like, that's kind of new. That's kind of cool. I like that. I like that they've added songs to the show, like actual like needle drops, whether good or not, they're actually trying, because usually they don't even try. They just give you like the stupid theme sometimes. But funny enough, one of my biggest annoyances was like the world. It's like, I like that there was color. It was a big purple world, very purple. But it always felt like they were walking in front of a screen. Like it was very visible. And I'm like, oh, come on. And I'm like, you're Disney. Just splash some more cash on the special effects. Come on now. Like
shout out to my wife, who literally sat there in front of you and she went, that's the green screen. You can see the green screen. It's badly done. Fine.
You can see where like the actual dirt was like mounded up against the screen. It was just like not good, like set design at all. So I was like, but in all fairness, apparently one of the things about this episode is this was being shot at like peak COVID. That's why you get a lot of scenes of just the two of them. Because they couldn't actually involve that many people in this episode. And hence it was all green screened, right? Because I'm like, you really couldn't go to another apocalypse. Like you picked literally the most boring apocalypse in like 1,000 worlds. So that's the part that I really had trouble with. I'm like, I don't like this world, but I like that there was action, that there was like stuff happening, but it also goes to show that like Marvel hires directors sometimes that are like one trick ponies, right? That they either hire good action directors that suck at dialogue or good dialogue directors that suck at action. And I feel like this director sucks at action, like, because it goes back to one of my other annoyances in episode 4, as much as I liked it, when they do like the chamber scene with like the 3 lizards, the head falls off and they like start fighting like everyone else. And it's like little shout back to like Star Wars Last Jedi moment, only 50 times less cooler. Like they didn't frame the scene appropriately. Like Lady Loki actually is a pretty good fighter. Like Tom Hiddleston sucks at fighting. Like you need to talk, dude. You need to talk and look cool. That's all you need to do, buddy, because you suck at fighting. But even that is like the director could have shot that in a way to make him look cool and just didn't. Right. So I think that to a certain degree, the director kind of sucked. And so this episode just dropped the ball that way. Now,
wait. There's just one thing, because it's a little thing that actually made me laugh, because it's like, this is so bad. I don't know if it's bad, but it actually, I laughed out loud, because I was like, the weirdest thing that I saw in episode 3 was an entire planet is about to destroy, for lack of a better word. Another one, like literally you can see it like coming your way, like it's the end.
Yeah.
Why are the security guards still trying to catch Loki and Lady Loki? Like, why are they still doing their jobs? Why is it not anarchy? Like, do you not see that? That's in. It's like they're trying to escape from, they're trying to board the ark or whatever it's called, and then they go back the other way because the ark's exploding and everything is gone. There's no way out, and then they still have to fight their way out. It's like, surely the security guards have seen that massive, big-ass planet that's coming their way. There's no point in doing your job anymore. Just go home and be with your family.
And then there was a moment I actually had to rewind where that building's falling down on them, and Loki says, "I've got it," and he pushes the whole building back up. Yeah. And I was like, hold on a second. All of this stuff is happening. You have the power to lift buildings with telekinesis. Yeah. You haven't tried to stop a single meteorite. You haven't tried to create like a defensive bubble or anything that would have helped at any point during this episode, but you're going to lift an entire building off the two of you.
I didn't know that was a power of his. Is that a power that he had before?
No, that's the thing. It's not canon so far as MCU. They introduced that very randomly. And mind you, like they're no longer in the TVA. They could have changed their appearance and just blended in with like the people getting onto the ark and just got on the ark. Like that which
he did at one point. He did at one point to get on the train.
Exactly.
And I'm like, why are you not doing it again? The whole thing was nonsensical to me. Like the entire scene, I was like, what?
I will say like the part where he gets dressed up in that really stupid outfit with like the big thing over his head. Of like, it felt like a real like Doctor Who callback. Like I feel it was like really silly like costumes. I was like, and that part I was actually there for a little bit. But all right, here's my defense of the show. All right, how the show is executed has so many flaws, without a doubt. But what the show tries to accomplish, I think, is incredibly necessary to the series. Because what it does is like, one, you need the Lokis to fall for each other. Like, I still think that is a relevant theme to the show, and I'm curious where it goes, because it touches on the whole notion of narcissism and self-love and just like finding sympathy and empathy towards someone else. Like, it sets up all that I hope will deliver later on, right? So they had to do it. If you have to have them escape and go on the run to fall in love, you have to do it in an apocalypse. Like that has to be the case. It can't be just any second, because if not, they set up a Nexus event, right? So it's like they have to be in apocalypse. So all it tracks. They go to apocalypse, they fall in love. But if you're in an apocalypse, this is where I can't defend. It's like you kind of do it with a sense of urgency. They could have done the whole them falling in love thing with a bigger sense of urgency, because the world is coming to an effing end and they're like literally walking to the ark. And I was like, just, but then you get into like, how do you build in that level of dialogue into an action scene, right? So there was a bit of a catch-22 there for the director that I'm like, I appreciate that there was a big creative problem. There's like, how do you get them to fall in love while they're on the run in the middle of the apocalypse? Like, how do you do that? And what they came up with was not the right solution. Like, fully agree, but that needed to happen. And there's a second theme there that I thought was super interesting. The fact that they were in an apocalypse, and then you see that point when they're in line, and then people start going like, only the rich people are getting into the ark, right? And I'm like, to me, that connects back to the TVA theme of fascism, right? Yes. And I'm like, all right, you guys followed through on the themes you were supposed to. It's just execution was very bad, right? So I thought there was a lot of good stuff in there that just could have been done better. They could have picked a different apocalypse, a more realistic place that felt more lived in, get like the people's point of view, have them have to hide and then develop the relationship, like hiding from one place to another, as opposed to just like walking. Like it felt very that's my defense of it.
I think what they could have done was, I mean, I say make the threat level greater, but like you said, a greater sense of urgency made it feel like, even though we know they're not going to die, made it feel like there was some close calls, right? So that when they are saving each other, you can see that, oh, actually there's an emotional aspect to their actions when they're trying to fight people off, or when they're trying to save each other, or when they're in these things together. Because you never really feel like they're united until the very, very end, when they're like, oh, well, nothing we've done has worked. And I think it's partly because they tried to have the whole feel out process and then the love process all in one episode, practically in a few scenes.
Yes.
Whereas if there's, I don't know how they could have done it, to be honest, but if they had just focused on the love aspect and them building up to that point, it would have been a much smoother transition.
Yeah.
Rather than, I don't know if I like you, I don't even know you, oh, I'm in love with you.
Yeah, done.
I know it. Yeah, we're gonna die. I'm in love.
I think it's a problem of execution and pacing. I think you had these other two things, and then the dialogue not helping that. That was the last bit to me. But go on.
Yeah, I'll tell you how they could have done it. They could have landed in an apocalypse a little bit earlier than, like, what is it, like 8 hours or whatever it is they had, and had because at the end of the day, they are the gods of mischief. Like they're still the gods of mischief, right? It's like, have them rejoice in the chaos of apocalypse, right? Just have them run rampant in the apocalypse, just like wreaking chaos, and then have them look at each other going like, oh shit, you like to do the stuff that I like to do. Because ultimately that's how you date. It's like you go off and do something fun, and then you notice that person has something in common with you. And then after you do that, then introduce the concept like, oh, you might not get off here. Like instead of like not having having the thing break so stupidly, I'm like, have it like actually be in peril, where they at the end they have to go after the time like iPad thingy together, and that brings them together, and they have a moment or whatever it may be. But like give it a bit more. They just like eased into the relationship a little too passively. And funny enough, I heard someone in a podcast refer to it in an interesting way. When you think about it, it's like, I don't know if you guys ever saw the movie Before Sunrise or Before Sunset. It's a trilogy of Richard Linklater movies that are absolutely fantastic. And all they are is about two people that are traveling through Europe, and they both get delayed in getting to their train, and they miss it. And they have to spend a morning like in Amsterdam or something together. And it's about two total strangers getting to know each other and like kind of falling in love, but then having to go their separate ways. And that's it. There's no payoff. There's no plot. It's just literally about seeing how people connect when there's no time to, like, nothing to do. Right. And it's a great movie. It's like, all three of them are absolutely amazing. And I felt like, yes, they tried to do that here, but it wasn't thematically there with the rest of the show. Right. It's like, it wasn't a slow show, and it was a fast-paced dialogue show, and the dialogue just slowed way down. So like I said, I think there's good things and bad things to it, but yeah, overall, I think it could have been done much better. But we got to 4, and 4 like redeemed the whole thing.
4 was just so there's nothing bad about episode 4. I got nothing bad to say about episode 4, and that's annoying me a little bit.
Loki's fighting.
All right, fine. Loki's fighting. All right, cool. If that's what you think is a bad thing for an episode, I think there's far worse. I think that still tells you that it's a great one to watch.
Episode 4. One quick episode. Did you guys not find the 3 space lizards kind of unnerving when they started talking?
The 2 latter ones' voices for sure.
That was weird.
But then I don't know what you would expect them to talk like.
That's how I expected them to talk. A slight disappointment that they were not real, but then I went, actually it's quite cool. Yes, I'm all for that. But I was like, oh no, she just killed one. How could it be? Wizard of Oz. But yeah, I really loved episode 4. And whether we've done the love section, but I think I might go back and watch it again once we're done. I think
Well,
JC
we'll say for episode 4 is like they clarified one big thing that I think I'm getting into more like some of like the overall themes and stuff of the whole episodes, right? But it's like,
well, there you go.
one big-
Let's move on to that then. This
yeah,
overall thing.
it's like, like pruning.
Mhm.
And like, I think there's a big time travel theme here that I feel like up until then became super clear. Like, and they told us the whole time, it's like, why do they keep saying pruning? And we never questioned why they said pruning. And now it makes total sense when they say pruning, because they could say eliminating, killing, whatever. It's like vanquishing, like all these are, and they prune, because when you prune, you just cut off a branch. And that branch still exists and has to go somewhere, right? And so every time somebody got like hit with like the pruning stick, I call it, or whatever that those batons are called, they go somewhere, because physics tells us, right, that energy and matter never cease to exist. Right? It's like they just transform into one or the other. And we know that time has some sort of relationship with matter and energy. So same thing. It's like you cut a piece of time, you cut someone out of it, they have to go somewhere. They just don't cease to exist. So when we got that reveal, I'm like, that makes total sense now. And it just transforms everything you've seen, right, so far, where it's like, oh wait, are they like stockpiling people somewhere? And like, where are they? And then, and the fact that you see the other Lokis that they showed us in that little hologram thing. I was like, oh, it was so exciting to me. Like so ridiculously exciting.
That post-credit scene, then it sets up I think what's going to happen in episode 5 and 6. I think they've, like you said, they're stockpiling a bunch of Lokis and a bunch of other heroes that got pruned, or people that were not supposed to be there. And those guys want revenge. I think we're getting to some sort of war between the TVA and a bunch of Lokis. I think that's what we're going
to. And there's, I guess this would be my criticism of episode 4. There does appear to be some inconsistencies, and it might just be that they haven't explained everything fully yet, right? There could be more, could be revealed. If that's the case, that there's a war between the TVA and the Lokis, why, when she pruned Loki, because Ravonna was the one that pruned him, why would she send him to fight in the war? Right?
Well, I don't know if
she's
there's
not
a
on
war.
his side.
Yeah. I don't know if there's a war just yet. As in, like they're preparing to get revenge, or.
But you know what I mean? Why would she send him somewhere that would ultimately help him do whatever?
Maybe she doesn't know. Maybe she just doesn't know. Maybe to her, pruning means killing someone. It's like you're gone.
You see, and I would push back on that, because I think she knew that she might have to prune Mobius when he was asking all the questions, and that's why she kept asking, if you could go one place, where do you want to go? Actually, she would specifically send him somewhere where he would be happy, because she does actually care for him. Because
she knows, because the one of the little detail that you see throughout episode 1 and 2, maybe 3 even, when when Mobius goes into her office to sign some paperwork, and there's those rings that you get from glasses, and she's like, oh no, you made those rings, and it's like, I can't remember that. So she knows that he's getting recycled, if you will, and he's coming back over and over again in different shape or form or whatever, as Mobius, as a detective or as an agent.
Not
to do that same
is
job,
when she says he's not her favorite. But it could be a different version of him that was her favorite, type of thing.
But like, there's references also of Loki, like, oh, you're that Loki, or you're he does it, but different. I think in episode 2, I think there's a bunch of references when it's like, oh, the other Loki or something else, like your better version than the other Loki, something in that effect. So it's maybe they just don't know where they go. Maybe it's just.
Well, I'll give you a theory on that. I think you're right, David. We haven't been given any reason to believe why they're going there, and why Ravonna would purposely send them there. But let's assume, based on what we've seen in the show, take it at face value. It's like they're clearly getting sent to somewhere where they don't come back from, right? They don't die, but they just don't come back from that place. And let's say it's some sort of splintered timeline, right? That's not connected to the main timeline, and hence they're going to be stuck there, right? So Loki arrives there, and he probably will be stuck there. I expect that their next episode is Loki stuck in that timeline and trying to get out. And I think the way he gets out is whether it's with another Loki there or Lady Loki showing up in that timeline too. So she gets pruned. They created Nexus event there to get out of that timeline and unleash all the Lokis. So which Ravonna could have never foreseen, right? And that's where we start to get some of those Lokis, because unless they're really trolling us, those Lokis have to get out, because one of them is Kid Loki, and Kid Loki is part of Young Avengers.
Exactly.
And everything's gearing up to Young Avengers, so Kid Loki has to make an escape from that timeline, right? So that's kind of where I think it might go.
If we're getting a bunch of different versions of Spider-Man, then why can't we have in the Doctor Strange 2 Multiverse Madness, whatever? A bunch of Spider-Mans, a bunch of Loki who escaped from the TVA, a bunch of put it like a different wonders. That'd be awesome.
Dude, Matt Damon Loki.
Matt Damon Loki, bring him in. I love it.
And then we got Thor Loki. That would be pretty cool. But yeah, I think that there's something to that bit of escaping for those Lokis that unleashes the multiverse of madness, and it happens through a Nexus event, because they've all but told us that the Nexus event is the big thing, and Wanda's a Nexus being like, Nexus has to be a thing here. Like, there's no way that's trolling.
I don't see them trolling at that stage now. It's just I think they're trying to spell out what is about to happen soon in those films. What's the next movie to come out? Well, you've got Black Widow now next week. I think. But then after that, what's the next?
Is it the Eternals next?
The Eternals is next.
And then
Doctor Strange then.
I thought it was Shang-Chi, then Eternals. Maybe not.
Because
we got a second trailer for Shang-Chi and not a second trailer for Eternals. So I think it's Shang-Chi.
But when I was at the cinema yesterday, I saw a trailer for the Eternals, and it said November.
All right, cool.
November. So I was like, well, when are they going to have time to squeeze in Shang-Chi before?
What did you watch? What did the seats
Fast
feel
9,
like?
of course.
Oh, dude! Nice. So good. Oh.
On sofas.
That's
real
that's
comfortable.
A separate pod.
Had a footrest.
I still haven't been back. There's still some part of me that hasn't grasped. It's not that I don't want to. Some part of me just doesn't recognize that that's an option. It's weird. Like I just don't think of it, and then I go like, wait, I could go. And only when someone reminds me they can't go is that I actually decide to start making plans. So yeah,
because you've adapted to the new life.
I know. It's weird.
Just take it out.
Super weird. New timeline.
Timeline, exactly. Do we move on to what we think is going to happen in 5 and 6? Because next time we reconvene is when we'll have answers. So should we play that game?
I've got one more that I really want to talk about.
One more. Do one more and then we move on to that.
We because we have to talk about it. He falls in love with himself. I mean, that's the biggest theme here. It's like it's like Owen Wilson literally says is like that. Somebody says something like, this twisted, messed up thing you've done where you managed to fall in love with yourself is huge. Like huge for the MCU, because it goes into like bonkers territory. One, we clearly established that like Loki's not only gender fluid, he's sexually fluid. And he falls in love with himself. It's like, I can't think of a crazier storyline to come out of the MCU. Like, say what you will about like Thanos having like balls dangling down his chin. It's like, it's like this is one of the craziest things that's ever happened. But I think that they're executing it actually really well in a lot of ways, because some people, I've heard some people like on podcasts like describing this like it's an analogy for self-love of like and that, which is so relevant to like the pandemic. I'm like, actually, I don't think it's that at all. To me, the biggest comparison to this is a movie that a lot of people really don't like, but I think it's an absolutely brilliant movie called The Lobster. I don't know if you guys ever saw that with Colin Farrell. The premise of the movie is straight up bonkers. It's in a world, it's like this weird futuristic world, but nothing's futuristic. It looks just like our world, but the rules of the world are very different in that you have to be paired up. No one is allowed to be single. So everybody has to find a mate, and then they go off and they get married and stuff. And all the people that don't get sent to this hotel. and you get checked into the hotel, and you're given like, I think like, I forget, like 60 or 90 days to then pair up with somebody else.
45 days.
45 days, yeah. And you
45
have to
days.
find a like a match there, someone you love, and then you're allowed to go off and lead your life. And if not, you get turned into an animal. and then when you show up, the first question they ask you is like, what animal would you like to become if you don't find a mate? And this guy picks a lobster. That's why it's called Lobster. And that ends up being kind of irrelevant. Or maybe someone read it, I don't know. But the interesting thing is like the whole way that they try to pair people up is they give them like this like scorecard, right? And stuff. And they have to list down what is their defining attribute. Right. And then the whole point is that you're trying to find people that have defining attributes that match yours. And then you see it. And then what, for one lady, her defining attribute is she gets nosebleeds. And trust me, this goes somewhere. And then this other guy, he's like, I want to get out. I don't want to live here. And I don't want to become an animal. So he starts giving himself nosebleeds on purpose. And they pair up and off they go, right? And there's something happens with that. Sometimes I care. I don't want to bore you guys with that bit. But the whole point is that ultimately we all are just looking for someone where we can see a little bit of ourselves in, right? That's how you find somebody you love, right? It's like there's just enough. There's gonna be like carbon copies, but just enough. And I think this episode does that so well for a character that could never love somebody else because he is such a narcissist. And the word narcissist gets used so many times in this show.
Yeah.
And it's a running theme. And then for him to fall in love with himself, but in a way that actually feels like that's redemptive for him as an arc. And even in the way that he got a redemption arc with Thor, I feel this even feels more redemptive because he gets to be himself and you get to see how their shared trauma is what brings them together. Which he's like, and it's heartbreaking. I thought that piece of dialogue, which is like, I grew up in 1,000 apocalypses or 1,000 dying worlds or something like that. And I'm like, shit. And only then does Loki recognize that one, not only does he develop sympathy for her, but when he understands that she was taken away so young from Asgard, he develops empathy for her, right? Yeah. And it's very hard to make that. We all talk about empathy like it's sympathy, but really it isn't. It's like you need to actually understand the person. And when he understands her, and that's the part that I do buy about the love story. Like that little element I thought was really interesting.
Yeah.
That's my take.
But like I said, I think that the whole love story, I'm not against the love story part of it. I think it's the like you said before, you were absolutely right. It's the execution of it in episode 3. I think felt a bit weird, that it felt off. But then I was really all for it in episode 4 when you had the interrogation and he was like, oh, when he says, oh, she's dead, like she got not dead, she got pruned, and like Tom's reaction, Loki's reaction to that was that. Almost started. No, you can tell like he's getting emotional about it, which you never really see with Loki as a character. So I thought that was actually partly why I like episode 4, so you could see those emotions. You can see him relating to another human being. That was not something you've seen before, really, that much on that level with Loki. Great stuff there.
Yeah, and there's a parallel with the Owen Wilson relationship as well, where Owen Wilson only begins to understand Loki because the first time he indulges Loki for the first half and develops like a bit of a friendship, but it's still more like he still doesn't understand Loki. And only once he recognizes that he's a variant, once again, they have something in common, right? And as soon as you have something in common, like that's developing empathy, that commonness, like I understand your journey. Does he really turn the corner on the Loki relationship, I thought. So I just feel like they've touched on like shared trauma and empathy in better ways than most of the shows have.
Yeah, no, you're right. All right, let's move on. What do we want to see? What do we expect to see? No, what do we think is about to happen? Theory times, episodes 5 and 6. Well, not theories, but what do you want to see, or what do you think is going to happen? Maybe it's the question. What do you expect, or what do you want to see? You know what I mean? Like, you're not going to see anything. There's not going to be any Mephisto. What are we going to get? Kang.
Go on, regular special guest, David.
Yeah, this is the only part of the show I don't like going first on. I like doing the rest of it. This one's always tough. Because obviously we have the multiple Lokis. and I watched the mid-season trailer. There's a scene where like a Titanic like boat falls out of the sky. So it seems like other things can be pruned to the same location. The location that we saw appeared to have the Avengers Tower in the background.
It's
so
New
that
York.
makes me think that it's either a timeline where they lose the invasion from the first Avengers. The first Avengers movie, not the first Avengers.
Yeah.
Or one of the other apocalypses has actually taken place, whether that's Ultron succeeding.
Thanos.
I assume it's not Thanos succeeding because we saw him succeed.
Yeah.
Right.
It's true.
We've seen that timeline already.
Yep.
And then, man, where do we go from here?
It's okay.
Tough.
You can go.
Yeah,
you can do it.
I still need to need to move things around in my head.
You only have to wait 2 weeks to find out if you're absolutely wrong or not. So it's okay. We get payoff very soon. But let me put mine.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I had a crazy ass theory coming up my way. That the TVA doesn't really exist. It's just somebody messing, with Loki's brain, and that all of these variants are just they're all Loki's. He's stuck in some sort of time loop. Somebody's messing with him just to punish him for something he's done before. An enemy we've not seen yet, like Kang or something like that. I wouldn't be surprised if that's what it is, and just trying to mess with him and get him to, I don't know, like what we saw with him being stuck in that time loop, getting endlessly kicked in the nuts, which was awesome. And so that sort of, on a bigger scale, that sort of reasoning on a bigger scale of somebody messing with Loki, and then Loki somehow managing to break that loop, and then go back into reality, I guess. When was the last time we saw Loki? Was it when he gets killed by Thanos then? Because I don't think we see him after that, right?
Yeah.
So
and they go back in time, and it's back to Avengers 1 when they go down.
Technically, that's the last time. Yeah, when he takes the Tesseract. Yeah.
That works out actually. That makes sense because that's what Kang does. He puts them. He puts the Avengers. He normally isolates them and puts them in a situation that doesn't make sense to them. And they and funnily enough, the Enchantress does similar things as well. She doesn't do it with time. She does it with reality.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that would check out.
I don't know. I see something like that, something along those lines. That in terms of how this is all going to play out, I don't really know. It's really weird because I'm watching this and I'm trying not to think too much like we did for WandaVision, and trying to have high expectations of what I want to see. But I'm okay with them going in any direction. Really, I'm very open-minded with the way they've approached this. As long as it gives that, like, there's an out, that something that leads us into the next bunch of films, and that we get some sort of closure in those films about what happened in the series, all of the series that we just seen. I think as long as we get that sort of ending to any series that we're gonna get now from Disney Plus, I don't have much high hopes for the last two. I want to see a big fight though, and hopefully Tommy Hiddleston will have trained a little bit, be better movement from Loki. It's a bit like Tyler Hero boxing. If you don't know what I'm on about, JC, get on Twitter and
Tyler Hero. Okay.
Is it Tyler Hero?
Yeah.
Miami Heat. He's been doing a bit of boxing, doing the.
That seems to be a thing that's going around right now, isn't it? Like random people joining boxing. I'm like, God, you guys are bored.
Think of a skinnier version of me trying to do boxing. It looks as ridiculous as you think. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
It's horrible. Anyway, what do you have, JC? What do you want to see?
And keeping to the theme of like taking the show at face value, I think the show only has one progression, which is the Nexus event happens. So the Lokis get together in some fashion or other, like they kiss, presumably. And then that sets up a Nexus event that like throws off the whole timeline. And then we get back to the multiverses, right? With the theme being, sorry, we get back to a multiverse, with the theme being that is the right order of things. Like they've teased that enough where it's like, chaos, like, oh, that's chaos that we can't have, chaos we can't have. And it's always said by the person that's the biggest fascist in the room, right? So like the Ravonna character, right? It's always like, we can't have chaos. And it's like, so we're clearly going to like the whole notion of like controlling a society versus allowing a society to flourish and be different and be diverse and be crazy and bonkers. And so we're clearly heading to that. So it's a Nexus event where it unleashes everything, but in a good way. But as with all chaos, that like bad things come along with that, right? So I'm hoping that what I'm hoping is that we do get to see variants of Owen Wilson, because I think more than like the Loki variants are now like we're going to see them early, I think. But if we get to see like variants, I'm super curious creatively what they'll do with like variants of Owen Wilson. If like they get like Vince Vaughn to show up as like another version of Owen Wilson or something stupid like that, which they won't. They don't have the money for that. But point being is that I think that that's where it's headed to. I think how they get there is the part that's going to be fun and interesting, but it has to set up to there. And I think it ends very much with that Nexus event, unleashing everything. And then to your point, possibly like a little bit of a wink and a nod from Kang. And then we wait until Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. And then somehow Wanda factors into that equation.
Did you just say Doctor Strange is about to show up in episode 6? Is that what you just said?
No. I think that's where we pick up next, but he's not showing up.
That said, have you guys seen the new ending for WandaVision? They've
what?
They know that post-credit scene. Did you see it, Dave?
I haven't seen it. I know that it exists. I haven't bothered watching it.
So Disney Plus has quietly replaced the post-end credit for WandaVision episode 6. You know, the one when you've got you've got that shot of the forest and then slowly going into the house, right? Where she's reading a book.
Yeah, like working away and stuff,
Working away, exactly. So there's now that thing where you see this weird, blurry, shadowy thing going down the mountain as the camera is now, the drone is flying towards the house. There's this bunch of trees and forest on the left-hand side, and you've got this figure that looks like Doctor Strange floating over the forest down to the house. And people have pointed that out, and they went, hey, wait, you guys changed this wasn't like that before, confirming Doctor Strange was there all along. It was Doctor Strange. Oh, by the way, can't remember the YouTube channel's names, but there's somebody that spent the time watching those Loki episodes over and over again to try and catch those glimpses of other characters that are dropping into the episode. So, he had episode 1, you had what's her face, Captain America's wife. Damn, I forgot her name now.
Oh, Peggy.
Peggy. She's in the background getting through a portal. And then apparently episode 2, you've got Agatha. If you remember the scene of them going back to this medieval village.
Or
maybe it's episode 1. I can't remember.
That's in Pompeii. So Agatha was
maybe
in Pompeii?
in Pompeii. Yeah, no, Pompeii. There's one scene where they go. Maybe that's episode 1.
It's the first apocalypse they go to.
Yeah,
it's the flashback scene where we see where they play We Need a Hero, and Lady Loki kills a bunch of people. Yeah,
that's the one. Yes. So apparently Agatha is in there. There's Peggy in this, either in episode 2 or still in episode 1. I can't remember. And then 3 was somebody else. Anyway, they've been dropping people in there.
They're going through portals to
not all of them.
The scene, or just hanging in the background.
Peggy just, I think, is brought into the TVA, or she looks like she's working with them because she's brought in. She looks like she appears to be talking to an agent. So there's a bunch of stuff happening in the background. I thought it was quite funny. I can't remember, the third one is kind of a big one as well. But it's interesting. If you can find it online, there are people out there that are just literally spending their time trying to catch who's in the background of those episodes. So it's quite funny. I thought I would mention that. Are we done? Got anything else to add to Loki 3 and 4?
Yep.
I think we covered it all.
Yep.
All right, let's end it here then. We'll be back in next week for something else, but in 2 weeks to recap 5 and 6 and see what we got wrong and what we got right. Hopefully, we probably won't have anything right as usual. All you need to know is that Kang and Mephisto will be in episode 6. I put my house on it. I bet my house that will happen. And Wanda will show up too with Doctor Strange. That's all you gotta remember. Anyway, we'll stop here. Thank you, JC, for joining us again. Back from the holiday. Now he's fresh. He's got a bunch of ideas for the next episodes, next podcast episode. And Dave, our regular guest, who's about to get his badge of honor.
Thank you.
Get a t-shirt. Catching up with a t-shirt, Merc. I don't know if we do that ever. Anyway, that was us. Loki, episode 3 and 4. Catch us on all the social media as usual. Download all of our stuff. Previous episodes on Apple Podcast, on Spotify, Amazon Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts from. We're also on YouTube, Instagram, Catching Up with the Nerds, Twitter, also we're there. Yeah. And that's it from all of us at Catching Up with the Nerds. We'll bid you farewell and we'll catch you in the next one.
Bye.
Football's coming home.
Oh, God damn it.
It's coming. It's coming. Football's coming home.
Oh.